Okay. Hi, this is Celeste. I'm an astrologer, coach, and intuitive, and I'm coming on here for an impromptu YouTube Live. This may be a complete and total hot mess, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a couple of days, and I just don't have time to put together a presentation. I'd like to, be organized, have a presentation all together. My Taurus sun loves that. But my Aries moon is like, if you don't do it now, you're just not going to do it. So my Aries moon is like, come on, let's do this. Let's make it a high wire act. And if it's a hot mess, it's a hot mess. But anyway, I will do my best to make sense and provide useful information on the royal mess we're having right now. Mm-mm-mm. And I'm not really even into the royal family at all, but the astrology is just so on point that I really feel like I want to share more about this because it's a really wonderful opportunity for teaching astrology. Don't you love uh, how I justify? I guess it's not really gossiping. Well, anyway, it is what it is. Let's do this. We're going to start. And one of the reasons that I was really hot and heavy to do this is one of my mentors had a YouTube, or not a YouTube, an event about this. And while I was there, I noticed that Meghan and Queen Elizabeth have their ascendants oppose each other. So anyway, let's look here. So anyway, this is Meghan Markle. This is her natal chart, and her rising sign is 24 degrees of Cancer. Now, the Queen's rising sign was 21 degrees of Capricorn. Excuse me, Meghan's 24 Cancer. The Queen is 21 Capricorn. Cancer and Capricorn are signs that oppose each other. And so I thought that was so interesting because the descendant can represent, and this is a descendant. So you see the Queen's descendant is 21 of Cancer, and Meghan's ascendant is 24 of Cancer. So what that means is that there could be an affinity for each other. This is the descendant can represent the partner, like the husband. It can also represent open enemies. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I got to look at their charts together, and something stunning jumped out at me first thing. So Meghan's sun is at 11 degrees of Leo. And the Queen's moon is at 12 degrees of Leo. So that's a degree apart. That is a really tight synastry. So when you have a sun moon connection with someone, that's really beautiful. It's like the moon person, which would be the Queen, can kind of see what themselves reflected in, or what they would like to be in the sun person, and the sun person sees themselves reflected in the moon person. So it's just beautiful. It's wonderful for friendships, marriage, anything, to have a sun moon connection like that. So let's look at them in terms of as a bi-wheel. I'm going to put Meghan on the outside and the Queen on the inside. So here is the Queen inside the wheel. Yes. So you see Meghan's sun falls right on her moon in the house of partners. It can also be the house of open enemies. I don't know how they got along now, but I imagine when they met that the Queen thought Meghan was delightful. There's that video of her like sharing the blanket with Meghan. So I think they have real affection for each other. Yeah, I think they have real affection for each other. Megan's Mercury, how we think and communicate, is also in close proximity to the Queen's moon. So I would think they would have very, very, very nice conversations together. And when someone's ascendant is so close to the descendant, so Megan's ascendant, oh, it's not listed on here, but it falls right in her her first house of herself. So yeah, I would imagine when they first met, they got along just, just fine. Yeah. So the other key things, I like seeing this when you see these close degree connections, it really speaks to, this relationship being fated. So Megan's Mars is on the Queen's Pluto. So I would look at this as how Meghan has felt the Queen, and I feel like the Queen is in terms of, the monarchy, not just the person, has transformed Meghan's ability to take action in the world, as well as has held massive amounts of power over her. In the Oprah interview, she talked about how she felt like she couldn't go anywhere, she couldn't do anything, she felt stifled. And Meghan's Mars is what's called out of bounds, so it has a Uranian flavor. So being a Sun Leo, I imagine that, being out, being seen is very important to her, and not being able to be out in the world and only, being told that she was overexposed was very, very frustrating for her, and that she felt there was this, you know, this being overpowered in a way. The other thing that is so interesting is that Megan's Uranus, and this is a planet, the Great Awakener, the planet of shock and awe, the earthquake, is right on the Queen's midheaven. And the midheaven is the highest place where you meet the world. It's your reputation, your status. So Meghan has caused massive change to the Queen's status in the world. In fact, just today, I mean, the accusations of um, the Queen was not accused, but that someone in the royal family was questioning the baby's skin color. That has been the big bombshell that has come out of this interview. So I think that's very interesting. And when Harry left the royal family and they went on their, whatever you want to call it, year off, that was a big massive change scandal that speaks to this. And the other thing that is so interesting, and why I wanted to do this, is that the Queen Saturn here at 24 Scorpio is right within 2 degrees of Meghan's Uranus. And the big theme of 2021 is the Saturn Uranus squares. Saturn is about our structures and about entrenched structures. The Queen obviously is an entrenched, power, authority, Saturnian authority. And Meghan, causing massive change to this authority is just so symbolic when we think of what's happening with Saturn Uranus. It's also happening, here in the life and the reputation of the Queen. That Charlie Hebdo, which is it's a comic, it's a, what is the word? It's a French magazine that does controversial comics. They had this picture of the Queen as the cop who killed George Floyd on Meghan's neck. I think that's it's really wow. Anyway, that is so scorpionic and speaks to this as well. So Is there anything else I want to say about this? But it just jumped out at me that they had so many close connections, and at some point, probably really probably really enjoyed each other. And so the another thing to point out with this is that Meghan's Mars is in her 12th house. So 12th house is a house of secrets, sometimes secrets we hide from ourselves. So Megan's got this very Uranian type Mars with it being out of bounds and trying to keep it undercover on how she takes action in the world. Mars and Cancer. Cancer is a sign that goes side to side rather than the frontal attack. Yeah, and that the Queen's Pluto is on here. This is also a very subconscious area, so it speaks to the power over being more subconscious than anything else. And yeah, and the Queen's Sun in Meghan's 10th house of reputation, shining a light, making her look good. She gives her a status to be associated with this woman. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about that. And anyway, I probably should have started with this, but this is what I told you. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. It's just going how it's going. So just a couple other things. Is there anything else I wanted to say about Meghan and the Queen? Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I'm not going to get too much into her chart. She's a Sun Leo, a Moon Libra, and a Cancer rising. So that Cancer rising gives her like a more of a gentle, warm appearance to others. But this Sun Leo, it's like she is, and she's got two planets in her first house. She is here to see, be seen, shine her light, be in the spotlight. She is not here to be kept, in a corner, told she can't go out of the house. And her moon in Libra means she's being in partnership is very important to her. Uh, Fairness and balance. You could tell she was feeling that it was very unfair that she wasn't able to go out. She feels it's very unfair that her son is not given the titles that apparently she thinks he should be given, and obviously Harry thinks as well. So I don't know anything about all that. I just know that fairness is really important to her. Yeah, and emotionally, she has her moon right next to Saturn. So Saturn puts the moon in a container. So this is someone who I would think could have lots of control over their emotions, not one to likely have a lot of outbursts. Libra as well is an air sign. Air signs can have a sense of detachment. But she has Jupiter right on the other side. So it's really interesting. People who have this kind of connection, I would think would make a good actress. I have not seen her act, but I don't know. But that ability, well, an air sign, maybe not so much. I don't know. But one thing I would think with this is when people have these tight Saturn Jupiter connections, sometimes they have a real ability to know when to expand and when to contract. The emotional body, maybe it's a little harder, but yeah, I find it really interesting that I mean, she talked about how she wanted to end her life, but and it was very unusual for her because I wouldn't imagine that um, with Jupiter right here that she would stay depressed for long terms. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. The other thing she has that's so interesting is she has her North Node in Leo. So having a North Node in Leo means you are here. Like this is her destiny. This is how she's supposed to be. She's supposed to bring herself out in the world and do Leo things. You could even say Leo is the sign of royalty, that she was meant to be royalty. So I thought that was very interesting as well. Anyway, I wanted to talk more about the transits than anything else. So one thing as well I found interesting, and I guess I should have said at the beginning, I'm talking about the Oprah interview, and just all the stuff that's gone on with them. Okay, so this is the date of the solar eclipse on December 14th, 2020. It was a Sagittarius solar eclipse. Solar eclipses are like a new moon times 10. Lunar eclipses are a um, full moon times 10. When you have this kind of excitation, it's like a big burst of energy. You know, the ancients would go out and see the sky has gone dark, and they thought it was bad omens potentially. Sometimes eclipses bring good things too. You don't know. It just the channel changes and something, the script flips. You cannot go back. So anyway, on this new moon, Megan's sun and this, not Megan's sun, moon, the new moon, the sun and moon here at 23 of Sagittarius are right directly on Megan's Neptune. And yeah, and I see this as well as Mercury is right here, connecting to them. So Neptune is the planet that rules like film and movies and spirituality and illusions and delusions, and it's really about when I think about the media and I think about image, I think about Neptune, and I really see that. My take on this is that this activation spurred her to want to make a change to her reputation, her image, what she's doing in the world, something like that. Britney Spears I think she has her Neptune very close to here as well, and and there was a documentary recently released that has helped to change her reputation in a positive way. You also see that Saturn and Jupiter are in her it's the house of marriage, but it's also the house of open enemies right here, as well as Pluto, the power planet. So, and these are on her south node. So speaking about some kind of something karmic going on here. But anyway, I see her chart being activated in her house of daily life and work and habits and wanting to make a change to the reputation. I also see it as making a change as Venus is transiting her natal Uranus. Okay, so let's do so the interview was on March 7th and was I'm just going to do when it aired. I don't know when it was, but oh crap, sorry. I pulled up the wrong thing. I want to pull up her transits. as well as her solar arc. Let's go do that too. Okay. So there's a couple things that are really interesting. See, this is why I like to do a presentation ahead of time, so you don't have to see me doing all this clicking. Okay. Okay, so inside is Meghan's natal chart, and outside is the transiting planets. It's a snapshot of the planets on the day of the interview. Yes. So we see here again, this is Meghan's ascendant. And so obviously they started planning and talking with CBS and all this stuff long before this interview aired. I think sometime potentially since November 30th, which was the lunar eclipse. But I don't know. They talked a while ago, but the interview was announced on February 18th, was the first date I could find talking about it, which was the day after the first Saturn-Uranus square, which is the theme of this year about structures being, broken down. So let's see what we see here in this here. The first thing I notice is that the moon is in her 6th house. Remember how I talked about that that solar eclipse was also in her 6th house of daily life, wanting to make a changes there. I read today that she might want to do politics or something. Who knows? Anyway, Pluto on her descendant. She's being opposed by powerful forces. Also, the authority is in her house of house of open enemies. It's no secret that there's this there's this conflict, and Jupiter is in her house of shared resources. Her and Harry were paid $7 million to do this interview. So obviously, very, very lucrative for her. And the Sun, Venus, and Neptune and Chiron all in her 9th house of how you expand. She's hoping this interview will be a launching for her to do whatever it is she wants to do next. I find it Uranus is now in her 10th house, and it was at the solar eclipse, wanting to change the reputation. And remember, I talked about how Venus was on her natal one down here. When you have transits to planets, they affect not just the planet that's transiting. It affects the natal planet and the house it's currently in. So it speaks to her wanting to change her reputation. And then because she's gotten, the press about her has been pretty scathing, especially in Britain. They're not having any of it with her. They've made her the bad guy. Whatever the truth, who knows? And it's so interesting. The palace opened an investigation about her supposedly bullying some staff on the day that, I believe it was the day that Mars went into Gemini, and it might have been actually the day it was right on her part of fortune. So taking action to try to change her part of her ability, her part of fortune. Apparently, I'm losing steam. See, this is why it's not a good idea to do hot takes. No, we're going to keep going and see what else I wanted to say. Yes. So a key part of why 2021 is such a big year for her And why the interview at this time, Harry and her deciding to, not go back to work. I don't know all the particulars about this stuff, but she is being directly impacted by the Saturn-Uranus square. So remember, the first one on February 17th was at 7. The next one's June 14th at 13, and the final one is December 24th at 11. And her sun is right at 11. And frankly, I'm a Taurus sun. I've been feeling this Uranian pressure building since it went into the sign of Taurus in 2018. So feeling this big pull for change, and it's accelerated since we've gotten into this year. And my son's at 12 Taurus, so I'm feeling it. I'm calling it that she's already feeling it, even though it doesn't technically happen till the December. So anyway, this fixed signs are being impacted. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Okay, and when you have squares and oppositions, and they happen in signs that are of the same mode. So Saturn here in Aquarius is opposite Leo, 9 degrees, 11 degrees. Okay, so with such a big activation, I would think, people would feel it several, 3, 4 degrees on each side, that first Saturn-Uranus square, maybe even a little bit more. So Saturn, the authority, opposing her sun, herself, her identity in the first house, squaring Uranus. So they're both squaring Uranus. Let me draw on here. Let's see. Let me draw this line. Okay. So transiting Saturn is directly opposite her sun, not directly, within 2 degrees. That's very tight. We know that Saturn-Uranus square, that's the theme of the year. Uranus is also squaring her sun here. Okay, so she is being pressurized by feeling like forces are opposing her, trying to, I would imagine, hold her down, silence her. And they're both, her sun, her Mercury is right here too, silence her. And, wanting to change her reputation, because her reputation has taken a shellacking in the press. So that is called a T-square, when you have two planets opposing each other and they're both squaring a second planet. So the planet that they're squaring, Uranus here, is called the focal point. Now, one way to release tension, this kind of tension, is you release into the opposite sign. So this is the opposite sign, the 5th house. It's the 5th house of things we create. The opposite sign is Scorpio, but it falls in her 5th house. It's things we create. And it can also be about children, romance, dating. That's another word for romance. Anything we create. Now we know she did, like, her and Harry are doing podcasts, and she filmed some movie and such. So she's been trying to revive, I assume, her celebrity career. But I found that this interview was very Scorpionic. Scorpio speaks to bringing up things from underneath the surface. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto, the lord of the underworld. It's all the things that are taboo, what we try to keep hidden in secret. So she talked about, the thing I found most shocking is her talking about how she wanted to end her life. I can't remember her exact words. I think she said she didn't want to live anymore. She didn't say that exactly, but Oprah pressed her. She essentially suggested that she was contemplating suicide while she was pregnant, which, myself with 5 planets in the 11th house of other people's children, I found that really shocking that she would say that publicly, as her kid's going to be able to hear this anyway. But the death of a child, 5th house in Scorpio. So I thought that for me, that was the biggest humdinger of the article, of the interview. But other people found, someone questioning how dark the baby would be. That's really the big news. And of course, that's also very unseemly and rude. And yeah, the royal family is doing damage control all over the place. And who knows who said it? Likely his father. Yeah, not good at all. So yeah, so this is, I think, their story's not over. We'll see what happens. I think the queen was we'll see. We'll see. At first I was like, ooh, what's going to happen next? What's going to be the punishment? But, the fact that her and the queen have the sun moon connection, um, her statement is probably quite sincere and not wanting to, you know, to being sad about, all this hurt and devastation. And, you can tell they're really, really, it's been a very unhappy time for them. So I'm talking about her and Harry. It's very difficult. So yes, so that's that T square. The other thing that's very interesting is that there's another technique called solar arcs. Okay, so Meghan is inside. So solar arcs, it's a really great technique. 2 techniques where you're progressing the chart to try to get a picture of where things are now for the person. The first one is the secondary progressions we tend to use a lot. And the second one is solar arcs. So secondary progressions more talk about what's going on inside. Solar arcs speak about what's happening out in the world. So one thing that's really interesting when we're looking at solar arcs, we're really looking to see planets changing signs, and we're looking to see planets like at the last degree of the sign or at 15 degrees, the middle of the sign, or making conjunctions with or oppositions or squares with our natal planets as well. And in fact, you can look at it with transits and secondary progressions and all that too. But I just found this so fascinating. So with a solar arc chart, basically you take the whole chart and turn it a degree for every year. And so the aspects within that chart never change, but it connects in with your chart. It's really cool because you can see things that happen out in the world. And Frank Clifford wrote a good book that's concise and to the point about solar arcs if you are interested in learning more. So a couple things are very interesting. So with solar arcs, you're really looking for really tight aspects. And because the degrees, I think it's 1 degree a week, not 1 degree, 1 minute a week. So you're looking like to be like at the same degree within 30 seconds. Yeah, it's the seconds or the minutes. It's the minutes. Oh, geez. Sorry. It's the minutes. So anyway, we can see that Megan's chart is being zing, zang, zopped all over the place. So first, let me call your attention to Venus is on her Venus Pluto connection in the fourth house. She talked about how she lost a child earlier this year. Pluto can also be death. We also see Pluto at 0 degree in her first house of her fifth house of children. At the time of when she miscarried, that was in July, Pluto was at 29 degrees of Scorpio. So it's like holding all the energy, like this urgency to express the sign death. So how horrible for her. I'm sure it was extremely traumatic. She actually lost a child and then now is talking about, how she was so devastatingly depressed. She was thinking about taking her own life and the life of her child a couple years ago. What else did I want to say? So Mercury, look at that, 13 in the house of communication, the third house, feeling the need to speak up. And as I said, this is solar arc, so they move very slowly. It stays at the same degree for approximately a year. Yeah, so that's also very, very interesting. So another thing that I find fascinating. So this has not happened yet and won't happen for 2 years, but her midheaven, her solar arc midheaven is approaching her natal Chiron, the wounded healer. So this could be a wounding to her reputation or maybe a healing to her reputation. We will have to wait and see for about 2 years to see what happens there. And another thing that's coming, Neptune speaks to Neptune, the planet of illusions, delusions, compassion, spirituality. It also dissolves things. It also could be loss. So Neptune is approaching her south node, the cosmic vacuum cleaner. So something is likely going to be sucked out of her life within a year. Yeah, within a year, a little over a year, there'll be an exact conjunction. So we will see what happens. It's yeah. It could be like an open enemy going away. It could be, yeah. It could also just be like a time of disillusionment. Could be, her and Harry could go through a difficult phase or what have you. Who knows? Yeah. So, and also right now at 0, so Chiron, the wounded healer and the sign of Cancer is at 0 degrees. Cancer thinking of the sign of the mother. Chiron, the wounded healer, like, a Cancer is a cardinal sign. So she's fighting for her child, angry that, he's not getting what she thinks is his due. She talked about, how her security was taken away for her and her child, and Harry, I guess. And, being that they're so famous and royals, they're obviously a target for kidnapping and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so very understandable about her being very angry about that. And so, yeah, so Chiron's at 0 degrees. So it's like a new start. She's coming out swinging. Pluto in Sagittarius, trying to change her transform Sagittarian things, how she can expand. Neptune's also at 0 in Aquarius. This to me harkens back to that transit of Neptune from the solar eclipse, wanting to change her reputation, or, wouldn't use the word change with Neptune, but like put the film, like put a new gloss, put a new shine on her reputation, um, with create an illusion about the reputation. I'm not saying anything she said was dishonest or anything, but with Aquarius, the people, the masses, so that she can, go on with her next venture. And I think that's all I had to say about that. We can also just look at quickly all three. So this is, so this is Meghan Markle is in the middle. That is her natal chart from when she was born. This is her secondary progressions. So I spoke about that earlier. This is what we look to, especially the progressed moon, to see where someone internally, what they're going through emotionally. Her moon in Pisces is in the 8th house of secrets. It's in the 8th house of the basement. It's the house ruled naturally by Pluto. So emotionally, she's probably been talking to a therapist, and she was ready to, throw open the doors of the cellar and tell all the stuff. And then this wheel is now what we just talked about in terms of the solar arc directions. And then finally, this is the transits. Now this is today, so let me move us back to the 7th. We're just going to use the 7th. Let's see if I see anything else I wanted to. No, I don't think so. Oh, the moon was on her solar, vertex, which is to encounter. Yeah, to encounter a Capricornian theme. Yeah, well, yeah, to encounter the royal family and how they impacted her daily life. Yes. Okay, I think that's it with that. I don't know if I wanted to say anything about Harry. Not really. Yeah, I can't think of anything I want to say about him, but I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a bi-wheel for the two of them. And just say, they were meant to be married. Look at this. Meghan's got her sun, her Mercury, her North Node, her ascendant, and her Mars all fall in Harry's 7th house of partnership. Now, having this Mars right here on the descendant, I hope things don't go south, because if they do, it's going to be ugly. Yes, but I think they're going to be just fine. Well, I don't know. Let's hope everything goes okay with them. They're under a lot of pressure. This is a lot. Okay. Also, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is on her Venus in the same sign. Having your Jupiter and the person you're in love with, Venus, in the same sign is pretty beautiful. So he and his moon is here. I'm sorry. Her moon is in the same sign as his Venus, which is really nice. The moon, Venus, and Mars are the relationship planets. It's not that close, but the fact that it's in the same sign and the fact that Jupiter's here as well, this is like she is the kind of woman he is attracted to. I'm sure they got along like a house on fire right away. And was there something else? Oh, her Chiron is on his moon right in the fourth house of the most private self. So she may have, there may have been, she may have really healed some parts of himself. Yeah, and her part of fortune is really close to his North Node as well. So this is a karmic relationship. Uranus being on his South Node, her Uranus, I would imagine they knew each other in a past life and they are back together doing some kind of karma. And yeah, just flipping this around, they're probably friends. Her moon is in his 11th house. Yeah, that's nice. That's sweet. Yeah, his South Node. Oh, wow. When her solar arc progressed, Pluto was at 29 Scorpio, his South Node. Yeah, the cosmic vacuum cleaner. They both lost a child. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is Piers Morgan. So Piers Morgan is this TV journalist. And I guess he's a writer too. He's British over there. I don't know all the particulars about him, but he's very well known. He can be pretty nasty. Let's look at Piers. He's got his we don't know any of the houses or anything because I don't know what time he's born, but he's a sun in Aries, a moon in Pisces. I do know his I think his moon would be in Pisces that whole day. I'm starting to get tired, sorry. And he has I don't know what his rising sign is, but he has Mars in Virgo right next to Uranus and right next to Pluto. Both of these are at 11 degrees. So with these Saturn Jupiter squares, what's happening is that Uranus and Taurus is making a trine and a relationship of ease to these planets. And then Saturn in Aquarius is what's called kinkunks. It's something needs adjustment. It's so it's not surprising that he got called on how he talks about her and he stomped off a set and quit. So anyway, he's been let me go back to this. We're almost done because obviously I'm starting to not be as clear as I could be. Okay. Okay. So what happened? That shouldn't have happened. Okay. Meghan's on the inside, Piers is on the outside. So anyway, if I had put together a presentation, I would have showed you a picture of them together. Apparently, they were quite friendly at some point, and probably she, kind of used him or whatever. I shouldn't say that. Well, yeah, the royal family, Harry even admitted it. The royal family uses the press. They have a symbiotically parasitic relationship where they need each other to survive and whatnot. But anyway, so when she first started dating him, they were getting on like a house on fire. I don't know what happened, but she cut him off. And ever since then, the vitriol with which he goes at her has been very intense. Some have called it misogynistic. Some have called it racist. I am not calling him any names. I'm just saying the things he said about her were extremely nasty. So people have accused him of being racist. I think it's because looking at their charts together, I think it's because he has a thing for her. Look at this. His Mars is right on her Venus. So when we see that, um, it can be an intense, that can be that's that sexy, sexy stuff. That's sexual attraction. Also, his Uranus is on her Venus. And his Pluto. So I would imagine that he thinks she is hot stuff and has been rejected by her. And now he's got this never ending vendetta um, against him. And yeah, his sun up here at the top of her chart. Um, I highly doubt she's interested in him in that way, but he does bring her out into the world. So that was nice. But I bet I bet they were friendly and enjoyed each other's company. Where was it that I saw something that I don't remember why they enjoyed each other's company. But anyway, this is why I think he is after her with such a vengeance. I mean, I don't know. He could be racist. He could be misogynistic. I don't know enough about him to know that. I just know he's mean. He's been mean for a long time. This Mars, Uranus, he says outrageous things intended to shock and awe. And yeah, I think that's what that's about. So anyway, I hope this, okay, I need to take anyway out of my vocabulary, but I hope somebody found this interesting, my talk on, on Harry and Meghan, and I hope it made sense. I know, apologies. Normally I would do, something more formal and pre-planned and have all my slides together, but I just don't have the time right now. And if I didn't do it tonight, I probably wasn't going to do it. Anyway, I will talk a little bit more about this another time, but you can, if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel if you're still listening. And you can follow me on Instagram, please, as well as Facebook if you like. And sign up for my newsletter at astrologybyceleste.com. I offer readings, classes, and events. I can do events fun events for people. And yeah, and on Instagram, that's my main platform. I do every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. I do a little Instagram live where we talk about the current transits of the week and people in the news. And then I pull 3 cards to help us surf the energies of the week. I also do a lot of news stories in my stories where stories have a astrological connection. And you can go to my page and look at on the highlights reel. I have a news reel. You can see all the different stories I've been posting since I started that. I guess I'm gonna have to start deleting some of them or else it'll just be so out of control. But I think I said everything about that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I'm also going to be having a bunch of free events starting in April where I'm going to do Teach for the Moon. We're going to be teaching about some stuff and then having like a social on March 26th. Myself and Maria Sophia of Maria Sophia Astrology are going to be hosting an event. It's a horary. Maria's going to answer people's horary questions. And I guess that's it. So I hope people have a wonderful day. If you did stay to listen, thank you. I hope this was useful. And yeah, you could drop a note in the comments, especially if I made a mistake. I might have misspoke. With all this Piscean energy, it's hard for me to to surf this. I'm looking forward to the sun moving into Aries. Yes, but my Aries moon thanks me for doing this and thanks you if you listened, and have a beautiful rest of the day.